Hello, everybody. It is Saturday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. My name is Chris Weuve. This is Starfleet Tactical. And I hope if you're one of the 200 million people in the way of this storm, you've got plenty of salt and plenty of sand and plenty of snow shovels and everything else, and you're all hunkered down. I am waiting for the storm to really hit here in earnest. I have not yet looked outside to see if it's actually coming down yet at all, but it's going to. So in any event, so I'm supposed to show everybody the shirt. So it says, "Surely not everybody was kung fu fighting," which is a very popular shirt. 4 years ago? It just sort of burst on the scene and everybody had one. I'm getting the thumbs up from Lissa. We may or may not have Alec tonight. Alec heard what the subject of the show was going to be, and he went, ooh, I want to be there. Do you want me on? Do you want me on? And I said, yeah, well, we always want you on, Alec.
Had we made the bet about whether or not he was going to be late like this, I would have won for it to be.
No, I wasn't going to take that bet because Alec does, sometimes take naps and stuff like that. He may have just forgotten. But, I can just go ahead and start the show. If he shows up, that's great. If he doesn't, that's fine. But let's go ahead and let me go ahead and start the show. And hold on a second. I got to pull slides up. Okay. So this is going to be about what I'm calling Rick Sternbach's Star Trek Spaceflight Chronology. That's not entirely accurate because he was one of the people associated with this. He wasn't the only one, but I'll get into that in just a second. But I think one of the reasons why Alec went ooh on this is because this book is one of those books that those of us, my guess is everybody in the audience, everybody who's listening to this knows what we're talking about here, right? We've all seen this book, right? And I discovered this book. This book came out in 1979. I was like a freshman in high school at the time, and I totally and completely just devoured this book. And it's the first time I had ever heard of Rick Sternbach. And this is way before Next Gen and the Next Gen Technical Manual, et cetera, way before I got the chance to meet Rick Sternbach. And so this is one of those books that, this is up there with Franz Joseph and the Next Gen Tech Manual and all the others as one of the books. And so I'm going to talk about it, put it within context, et cetera. So first of all, let's do the admin slide. Basically, I'm trying to get back to go visit the Strategic Book and Game Reserve located at Beaver Valley Self-Storage in Beaver Creek, Ohio. But the weather didn't cooperate. So if the weather was cooperating, we wouldn't be doing a show. I said there was a possibility we wouldn't. I was hoping the weather would cooperate. Next week is probably a no, because the trip I was going to do this week, I'm going to try to do next week. I understand that there's another storm building. One of the weather guys said, oh, by the way, we're going to get to do this again. But he said, we don't have any details yet. We just know that the conditions are right. And it's too early to tell. And we've got this monster storm coming down. And that's all I'm going to say about it. And that's all I heard about it. But we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully the weather will be good enough that I can go visit my books and do what I need to do there, in which case we won't have a show. We will probably have a show the week of the 6th of February, if indeed the 31st of January is a no. If I make a trip on the 31st of January, I won't make one on the 6th of February. 6th of February gets a little dodgy because a friend of mine has a Super Bowl party. And if I'm coming back on Sunday, it gets a little harder to schedule if I do it on the 6th of February. But so it's probably the case I'm going to do one on the 6th of February. I'm probably going to do one on the 13th of February. But there's a possibility I'll be needed elsewhere because a friend of mine just had open heart surgery. He and his wife have an annual open house that takes place that weekend. And they're going to still do the open house, but Jim is not authorized. This is Jim Bell, by the way, who some of you might know from the Baen Books website. Jim is not authorized to lift anything more than like 5 pounds. So I have volunteered to his dear wife, Chris, that I will come and I will be the unskilled labor to lift barges and tote bales and all the other stuff that needs to happen in order for their party to come off. So, but that I can probably do that Sunday morning. If I have to go down to Charlottesville on Saturday and I decide to spend the night down there, then it gets a little bit dodgier. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. So that's what it looks like for the next couple of weeks. And so let's see. The rest of this stuff is sort of the general stuff. There's been a little bit of changes. Like I added the Strategic Space Command Galactic Cruiser Leif Erikson. If you don't know what that is, take a look at it. It's designed by the same guy who designed the Enterprise. So that's one of the reasons why we're going to take a look at it. And I also added the guide to the Orville because I got that book and it looks pretty good. It's like half tech manual, half episode guide, et cetera, et cetera. There, of course, the Orville is not as deep in the lore as Star Trek is, but there's enough there and it's interesting enough that I want to pull the thread on that a little bit. So one thing, as always, all the images belong to the people that they belong to. They don't belong to me. I'm using them for educational and critique purposes and for... And so we're going to talk about what we like and what we don't like about these things. And in addition to that, we're going to talk about a living guy, Rick Sternbach. So I have not talked with Rick about this. I might say something and Rick comes and says, no, Chris, you're a complete and total idiot. So, it's important to remember, none of these are my words, not Rick's. They're not my employer's words, any past, present, or future employer. This is all me talking about somebody else's work, and that guy's still alive. So, okay. Next slide here's what we're going to talk about. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who Rick Sternbach is. And in all honesty, I just went and got most of it comes from Wikipedia, right? So I don't claim any special insight other than what's in Wikipedia, but I'll go ahead and tell you for context. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the context of the book Star Trek Spaceflight Chronology, like when it came out and things like that. And then we'll go through some book highlights. And I just realized that there was something I was going to do and I totally and completely forgot, which was to pull the timeline out of the book and give you the timeline of events that are in the book, because I think I found some place that had done that. But you know what? I've got enough slides anyway. So I'll talk about a few highlights of the book, and then we're going to talk about spaceships. Lots and lots of spaceships. Some really cool ones, like, for instance, to our right, we see the USS Patton, which for my money, is the niftiest design in that book. Don't think the side view is as good as the top view, but that's the top view, and that's a Rick Sternbach illustration. So he did all the illustrations for this book. And so that's an absolute fantastic looking ship, and that is supposedly the USS Patton was the first ship destroyed in the Romulan War at the very beginning of the war. Okay, so Rick Sternbach was born in 1951. That makes him 14 years older than me. So that makes him early to mid-70s. He started off as an art major. Then he became a marine biology major. And that's what his degree's in. But then he became a professional illustrator like immediately after graduating from college. So I don't know that he ever worked in marine biology. He's done a lot of book covers. In fact, if you pay attention, there was a time period where he did a lot of book covers. So there's a lot of science fiction books with his illustrations. There's lots of covers of analog. There's lots of things that show up inside books, et cetera, et cetera. So he did a lot of stuff and did a lot of magazine illustrations. And he worked on a lot of things that we know about, not just the Star Trek stuff. He did Star Trek the Motion Picture, and he did all those era movies, and he did Next Generation, and worked on all that stuff. But he also worked on Cosmos. He was like one of the art guys on Cosmos, and he worked on The Last Starfighter. He did like some pre-production stuff on that, if I remember correctly. He worked on Solaris. He did the console designs for Solaris, not the Russian one back in the day, but the more recent one with George Clooney. And he shows up in some aerospace industry projects here and there, including one of the ones we're going to talk about, which is the Ensman Starship. And he, of course, is the author of the holy text to the Next Generation Technical Manual, along with Mike Okuda. And I think Denise Okuda is listed as a author of that also. He's the author of the Deep Space Nine Technical Manual, I believe, also with Mike Okuda. So he's done some good stuff. Now, I tangentially know him. We're friends on Facebook. We have met in person at the Balticon Science Fiction Convention. I think I even might have been on a panel with him or something. I can't remember. But we did talk at Balticon, and I've sent every now and then I'll send him a little thing and say, hi, how you doing, and stuff like that. And, I've only been in the same place with him that one time because he's a California guy and I've been an East Coast guy. And so I can't say that I know him very well, but I do, I don't even remember if he would remember what I look like. But I know him well enough that we're friends on Facebook. Apparently I made enough of an impression that he didn't say, oh my God, not that guy. And I believe that Andy Presby at one point spent some time talking to him. So there's a few of us that are sort of plugged in with him. He's a very approachable guy when he goes to cons and stuff like that. And there's probably a pretty good chance that once this is up, that I will send him a link to it and say, hey, just to let you know, talked about your stuff. Did not give you the courtesy of talking to you beforehand. I just did it because in reality, I only thought of this morning. I woke up this morning and went, okay, I got to do something. I'm not sure what I wanted to do. I just hadn't. And I went back to the slide that I presented at the beginning that has the list of topics. And it's like, oh, yeah, Spaceflight Chronology. I've been wanting to reread that anyway. So, yeah, let's do Spaceflight Chronology. And Alec was all liquored up on that. But Alec isn't here. I don't know what's going on with Alec. He's probably taking a nap or something. Okay, so next slide is, let's talk about the context of this book. So it says that the book is written by Stan Goldstein and Fred Goldstein with illustrations by Rick Sternbach. So who are Stan and Fred Goldstein? That's a really good question. I couldn't find anything on them. There's nothing in Memory Alpha on them or Memory Beta on them. I did a quick search. Now, I can't say that my search was exhaustive, but none of the usual places that you would expect to have something on them, they're Star Trek authors. Why don't the Star Trek people know something about? I have no idea. No idea who these guys are. Don't know if they're, brothers, father, son, husband and husband, uncle and cousin. For all I know, it could be one guy with a split personality. No idea. So in any event, the book was published in December 1979. There were 16 planned titles to promote Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Movie didn't do as well, so they only did about half the titles. This is one of the ones they did. It came out on the 24th of December. The movie itself came out about a week earlier. So it came out right after the movie came out. And I remember seeing it in, it was either a Walden Books or a B. Dalton. And immediately, started counting how much money I had on me. This was early in my freshman year of high school. So it's not like I was flush with cash, but I immediately bought it and just read it 15 times over the course of the next 24 hours. It was fantastic. It's only the third official Star Trek reference product. After Franz Joseph's technical manual and Beau Trimble's Star Trek Concordance. So there wasn't a whole lot of official stuff out there. It was considered canon at one point. It's since been decanonized in 2002. They sort of went through and said all that old stuff, none of it counts, but it was official at one point, and so there just wasn't that much stuff that was official. The Beau Trimble stuff had started off as sort of a fanzine thing that was sort of collected and published. But this is serious stuff. This is serious stuff. And it inspired a spin-off of fan emulation thing called the Federation Spaceflight Chronology that's multiple volumes. And I don't have them all. What I've seen is really pretty good. So here's the timeline of all the different things that sort of came out around this time. We got the original series in 64. You can see that there was sort of a bunch of stuff that happens in the mid to late 70s, including Star Trek, the motion picture, and the Spaceflight Chronology. Wrath of Khan is in 82. The Star Trek, the FASA role-playing game from Star Trek comes out in 1983. Boy, I need to double check this because Starship Design should be italicized like everything else. Starship Design is a fanzine. It was in the form of a magazine, and it pretended to be like just a regular issue of a magazine that Starfleet people would subscribe to, like US Naval Institute Proceedings and things like that. It even had ads in it. Hello, Alec.
Hello. I'm so sorry to be late.
That's apologies. Okay. I figured
absolutely no excuse.
Well, I figured you were like napping or something.
Look, yeah, I fully expected this, Alec. It's okay. We're used to it at this point. I figured you were taking Pee-wee out or something, my dude.
Yeah.
We have a new cat. We also have a new rescue cat that we got last night.
Alec, I demand to see baby pictures.
If I leave the door open, she'll probably come in. Maze, where are you? Maisie, come here.
Alec has been on for 30 seconds and he's already derailed the show.
She thinks the new cat was in quarantine for a day until there she is. Come here, Maisie.
Oh my goodness, he's a baby.
He's adorable.
Yeah.
I need to get a new
Oh, she's a tortico.
Look at this coloring. Oh, and she
excuse me, a tabico. She's a tabico.
Is that what she is?
Yeah, so tabico is calico and tabby mix for the color code. So her coding design is called a tabico because she has the tab stripe, but she also has the calico coloring.
She's already decided that she's at home. Anyway, I did break out my books here, Chris.
Okay.
Both the Star Trek Spaceflight Chronology as well as the Star Trek Chronology.
Yes. Of which the latter, there's like 4 or 5 different editions of that, if I remember correctly. Maybe not that many. There's more than one.
I'm sure.
I was just talking about, I talked a little bit about the background. Like, do you know who Fred and Stan Goldstein are?
No.
Yeah, they're listed as the authors. I've never heard of them. Never heard of them again. Nobody seems to know who they are. So, I'm going to give Sternbach credit for everything. So here's the context.
Before you do that, let me just
go
real quick. I just wanted to show you what happened the other night. I don't know if anyone's following Starfleet Academy, but in episode 2, this happened.
It's riveting.
Anything? Are you picking something up here?
Oh!
Stop looking at the pretty woman. Jesus, dude. Got such a one-track mind.
That's interesting.
Isn't it? The most prominent name in that entire scene. The city, or from the amount of time they spent on it. And so anyway, I'm just and it's so funny because it looks like it's in our script. On it's probably because it's out of focus, but it looks like it's in the Axonar logo font. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with everyone.
That's fantastic. I like that. Interesting. I like that. Yeah, Patrick Ross said they even use the same font. So let's see. So I was just talking about when this thing came out. So like the Spaceflight Chronology came out like literally a week after the motion picture. It was part of it. Yeah, like December 24th, and the motion picture came out like on the like 17th or something like that. And it was they were going to do like 16 different products, and they only did about half of them because the motion picture didn't do as well as they thought it was going to.
Right.
And it was officially considered canon for a long time, and until 2002, and they sort of decanonized it in 2002. But if you look at it, there had been a flurry of stuff in the 70s, and then you started getting things like the role-playing game and stuff, and then a bunch of there'd always been fan productions going on. But I think that there was a sort of a quality jump. I almost said quantum leap, but quantum stuff is very small, not very big, like people think it is. So quantum leap is not that impressive. It was a very large quality jump that took place in around 1990, and you started seeing things like Starfleet Dynamics and Starfleet and Starfleet Prototype. They're all fantastic stuff, and so all that stuff sort of came out in that time period. And I think that even more so than the Franz Joseph Tech Manual, because it sort of came out in 75, and then there was this big gap. I think even more so than that, you can sort of point to the Spaceflight Chronology, sort of spiritually is sort of where a lot of that stuff came from. At least that's my feeling. Now, okay, you can look at the numbers and say, no, Chris, you're full of shit, but that's kind of where I think it goes.
Well, you've got, I think, between the FASA games and all the stuff that was coming out that you just mentioned, it was like the golden age of Star Trek. Of B canon, whatever you want to call it. I
remember buying the ship recognition manuals for the FASA game, and just like pouring over them for hours, days. Oh my God. Yeah, I still go back every now and then. They're still really good. So
you gotta love the cat that just came into your house a day ago and is already growling at all the OG. That's a little arrogance for you. Anyway, so
they're cats. So, but let's see.
And I also think that there's a whole renaissance of these products came not from the motion picture, but from when Wrath of Khan came out.
Yeah.
Because it energized the fan base the way the motion picture did not. And all of a sudden, everyone wanted a Monster Maroon, and everyone wanted, to play in that era.
It's really kind of a miracle that Wrath of Khan got made.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in fact, I need to go read up on that, because the more I think about that, why did Wrath of Khan get made? I mean, I'm not questioning the decision to do it. I'm questioning, why did it does not immediately seem to me like Wrath of Khan was the right answer, unless they just specifically said, okay, motion picture, we didn't quite, the motion picture was at best a single instead of a triple, right?
Oh, yeah.
A triple or a home run. But we're pretty confident that if we get enough pitches, we'll hit one out of the park. And I think they really did with Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, and that's why, and they cut the budget too to minimize their risk.
Yeah, Patrick Ross said that he found a Fred Goldstein on Wikipedia, and he was the head of the Marxist Workers' Party. Probably not the same guy.
Yeah, and again, this makes my point. David Thompson makes this point.
Yeah,
it was the best, and it was the inspiration for so much.
Yeah, and you look at it, it came out in '82, and all of a sudden the FASA comes out with the Star Trek role-playing game, and it really set the tone for it, starting with the fact that, you look at all the uniforms and stuff, they were clearly playing in the contemporary time period for a lot of that stuff. And it was, it was just really good. Just good.
I'm just reading back all the comments. So hey, okay, everyone, be nice, play nice. Orange cat, leave. Okay, go. Yeah. All right.
So at the back of the book, they've got these nifty little charts where they show all the ships that they talk about in the book, which is just nice, and it gives some little stuff there. The book presents the ships chronologically with some historical background stuff it puts in there. Some of the ships are mentioned in the episodes from the original series, like the USS Horizon is the one that visited Iota or Iosha. I forget how you pronounce it.
I think it's Iosha.
Yeah. So the gangster planet.
Right.
Chicago gangster planet, and they're the ones that left some books behind. There's a little log entry in this book about how they left some books behind. It also says the ship in the episode, it says the ship disappeared or was never seen again, etc. And they do have something about them going to the edge of the galaxy, but it's all in the form of captain's logs and stuff. So how did they have that stuff if the ship disappeared?
Right.
In any event, it's kind of a little inconsistent with canon. A lot of this stuff was negated by later works, but you see a lot of these ships sort of show up in the background of things, right? They show up on the walls of ready rooms and stuff like that. And some of them, in fact, we'll get it on the next slide. We don't see a data list. We definitely don't see a data list. But one of the ships, the second from the top there, was one of the designs that was proposed for the original Enterprise. Now, Gene Roddenberry looked at it and went, yeah, no. But it comes back as this Starship liner, passenger liner,
right,
in Spaceflight Chronology.
Right.
So let's see, did I catch everything? Yeah, I caught everything there. So it's got a bunch of things that are clearly didn't happen. Remember, this book came out about 1980. Even then, I think it would be a stretch to think that we'd have a moon base by 1998, but they went ahead and went there. They talked about orbiting solar power satellites.
Remember again, it's an alternate history.
Yeah, it's an alternate history where we weren't stupid.
Yeah. And by the way, I just as an aside, it was really great that I heard. I was listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson last night, and he was on a Diary of a CEO, and he's like, we're never going to Mars. He's like, not in your lifetime, and so he was like the guy who's the interviewer was like, well, why do you say that? Elon wants to go to Mars. He says he's going to be able to do it.
I think he wants to go to Mars.
I hope he goes to Mars. But Neil deGrasse Tyson's point is that something that big only happens if there is a major strategic need in the. He says there is no need for us to go to Mars. There's no great, we went to the moon because the Russians beat us into space. He says, what? And we haven't been back in 50 years. What makes you think we're going to go to Mars? Why do we have to go to Mars and spend trillions of dollars to get to Mars? To do what? Spend a few years there because that's how long you got to spend it before you come back. So that's his point. However, again, as I always say, look, Star Trek is not. The past of Star Trek does not line up with our past.
No, it doesn't.
And it doesn't. And you can look all the way back to, the episode with Gary 7, where the U.S. was launching a weapons platform into space. We never did that.
No.
So we just have to accept that it's a different past. And when when they're always trying to shoehorn stuff like they do in Star Trek: Strange New Worlds and change, I am totally fine with a totally different past. Now,
I am too.
The challenge is that this wonderful book that we all loved is itself, as you pointed out, no longer canon, because the past of Star Trek is not this. These ships are not.
Yeah. In onesies and twosies, they show up in the background, but everything else is sort of not there.
Yeah, there's no data list. There's no NX-01, blah, 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 blah.
But there's lots of other interesting things in little tidbits. Subspace radio works by sending messages through holes in space. Okay, great. The only space war they say was with the one with the Romulans.
Mhm.
It's so there is no war with the Klingons, which I thought that the original series had canonized war with the Klingons, and maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it was
Well, unremitting hostilities, I believe, was the line that they discussed. Which episode was that?
the Organian one.
Yeah, if that was Errand of Mercy. I mean, so
It could be. Yeah, that could be. I could believe it.
I don't think they never said there was a war with the Klingons in TOS. They basically said there was unremitting hostilities. Whatever.
Yeah, we never had war with the Russians. The Russians shot down a shit ton of U.S. airplanes.
Oh, by the way, I just saw
dozens of U.S. airplanes.
Yeah, I just saw a video about when during the Korean War, two F9F Panthers off the Orskany shot down at least 3, if not, I think it confirmed 3 MiGs, Soviet MiGs. So the U.S. was actually in a hot shooting war over North Korea with MiGs from the Soviet Union.
La la la, not listening.
It was great because it only became declassified sometime after 2000, something like that. And the pilot who shot down the MiGs got elevated from Silver Star to Navy Cross, and they're trying to get him the Medal of Honor this year. He's still alive. He's 100. I saved the video just to send it to you.
There's all sorts of stuff like that happened. That happened. There's a book called The Price of Freedom, if I remember correctly. It's about all the encounters between U.S. reconnaissance airplanes and flying against communist bloc countries. And there was a whole bunch that got shot down. And the family would just get a note saying, your husband or your son died in the service, and we're not going to tell you anything else. Or they'd get told it's a training accident or something like that. But
right.
it was all active hostilities.
Well,
so
anyway, so there you go.
Yeah. So one thing of note, it said that it lists a takeoff speed for the standard like Galileo 7 type shuttle. It has a takeoff speed of 300 knots. It's like that thing requires a runway. Really? You sure about that? It's like, I don't think you understand what takeoff speed means.
Yeah.
It's got a different definition or explanation for what you use for dilithium for, and it's actually really, really dumb. So, I mean, I'll leave it up to everybody to go read it. I don't want to get into it. There's a bunch of interesting things there. You can see it's just littered with stuff that they later came along and said, no, we're just not going to do
it. There was, as an aside, there was I need to look it up. There was a famous Jeopardy question about this powers the Enterprise, and I think the answer they were looking for was dilithium, and I've got to look it up because you and I would be the assholes who would say, no, Alex, that's wrong. Dilithium only moderates the reaction between the matter and antimatter, and it's matter and antimatter that are the fuel for and they would have been like, what the fuck? Who are you? Yeah.
I mean, I used to see that in training all the time. In fact, I saw it in one of the online training things I had to do for the current job, where it's like I guessed it's like, okay, they think the answer to that is no, but it's actually yes. And their own training materials give you the specific example as to why it makes it yes. There's an exception to the rule, and they asked, the rule, what does the rule say? Basically, it was a true or false. You always have to do X. Well, there's an exception to that rule that you just talked about 10 minutes ago. And a lot of people who do training stuff just aren't very good. So in any event, so it goes through and gives you this nice little handy chart at the back of the book that shows all these things. So I love this. Now let's go through and look at some of these as we go through. And so the first one I want to highlight is the Lewis and Clark, which is listed as being the ship of Sean Christopher.
Right.
And so everybody, Alec knows who Sean Christopher is. Sean Christopher's dad had an encounter with the Enterprise when the Enterprise accidentally went back in time. And he was a fighter pilot captain or fighter pilot and ended up on board the Enterprise. And they had to figure out a way to get him back because even though he was relatively unimportant, he was expendable. His kid wasn't. And so this is the kid, the ship that went to that did like the Jovian expedition or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Now, it's funny. You look at this. I need to go back and reread this, but I'm pretty sure that at no point does it ever say that it rotates to produce centrifugal force, artificial gravity, but that's clearly what's going on there. And I kind of like that design. That's a nifty design.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. And so look at that date, 2008 to 2030.
Yeah.
The ship will be decommissioned in 4 years because it's old and sad by 4 years from now. Okay, so the next one is actually in some ways, I think the most interesting ship in the book because of its out of book history, and it's the Tycho Brahe. And the reason why it's such an interesting thing outside is that it's an Ensman starship. It was designed by Robert Ensman. The idea is that big bulbous tank has slush deuterium in it, and it's a fusion-powered ship. And he designed a couple of different variations of it. And Sternbach and Don Davis, who's another name to conjure with in the space community illustration field, worked with Ensman to sort of define it, and then they published it in Analog. Sternbach did the cover of it for Analog. And you can see there's a couple of different variations in the illustration on the left. There's one that has two spheres. And if you go, there's somebody that's even done some reasonably detailed external drawings of it and labels what all the different parts are. In addition to, I'm not talking about the one there. I'm talking, somebody did like a full color drawing of it. That's really pretty nice. You can actually go online and find a technical assessment of it that was done back in like 2016, 2015, that time frame about whether the starship was realistic or not. Is this a realistic design or not? And if I remember correctly, like everything that Ensman did, it is sort of like, yeah, okay, it'd be nice if he actually worked out the details. And most of the details don't seem to actually work. And there's an Ensman Foundation now that supposedly is selling you stuff from his back files. And as near as I can tell, most of it is just garbage. Like I've bought some of the stuff, and because there's some designs there that are sort of superficially interesting, and there's nothing in it. It's like the way the starship is going to work is it's going to have an engine, and it's going to go to the stars.
And this is a hitting ship anyway. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, but in any event, so that's a nifty. I like that as a nifty design, and I think that design has a lot of things going for it. You can do lots of things with it, as you can see from the illustration on the left. Okay, the Bonaventure. I like this design, and one of the things I like about it is that big thing at the back is not a thrust nozzle; it's a radiator assembly.
Huh.
Now, you generally don't want your radiators pointing at your other radiators, and that comes really close to them pointing at the other radiators, but it's still kind of a cool design. And I remember in my youth photocopying this much, much larger and then like cutting the different pieces out and rearranging things and doing that with the pattern and this. And it's like, I wonder what the pattern would look like with the triangular head of the Bonaventure on the front. And the answer is, it looks really cool, by the way. It looks really cool. But that's a nifty design.
And here's Andy, another one of our foster kids.
Oh,
just an absolutely gorgeous sweetheart of the Russian blue. Mwah. I know. Okay, you want down? Go ahead.
Okay. And so this is the pattern, which I think is the standout from the book. And on the left-hand side, those illustrations come from Jim. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. He goes by JBot. And he's got a website that has all these illustrations, and there's some stuff that you can buy from it that has like blueprints and stuff. This is what he does. I've used some of this stuff in an episode before because he's got a really nifty illustration of sort of the bridge assembly of the 1701 and how all that stuff works. And I did a show where I did a deep dive on how all that stuff works. And he's on the list of, I want to go back and just go through his website and just sort of do a bunch of ship designs from his website. And I seriously considered going and grabbing one when I decided to do Spaceflight Chronology instead. I always thought that this design looked a lot better from the top than it did from the side.
Yeah, I agree. Now, also, wasn't the patent in FASA, isn't the patent the one that gets shot down and starts the Klingon War?
It's the Romulan War in this one.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But I think in FASA, the patents, it's for the Klingon War.
Oh, interesting.
I think so.
I don't remember that, but I can.
The FASA expert, please let me know.
Yeah. If there's somebody who knows. Patrick Ross says the Bonaventure looks different from the one in the animated series. Yeah, that's actually discussed online. It's like what? This doesn't look anything like it. So what are they doing? Yeah. So there's some people that complain about that, but it's just a nifty design, and I could stare at that design all day long. And they talked about how it lasted for a really long time because they built a prototype battle cruiser to replace it, and it just totally and completely flubbed. It couldn't perform.
You go on for a second. Pee-wee will not shut the hell up, so I got to go downstairs and get him, because since we've last been on together, Pee-wee has gotten very spoiled, and if he doesn't come up at night, I have to listen to him bark nonstop.
Oh yeah, I can hear him. So you go get him. I'll keep on going. And so here's more on the patent, because the patent is a cool enough design that I thought it deserved 2 slides. And you can see it's got a navigational deflector. There's a nifty illustration there that shows how big it is compared to like the space shuttle or a space shuttle like thing. You've got the Sternbach illustration in the lower right hand side, and then this is the JBot illustration of the side view of it. And so it's really kind of a nifty design, and this is going to be one of the ones that I do a deep dive on. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do a deep dive on this design. So this is a design this is interesting for a couple of standpoints. First of all, boy, that's kind of an ugly ship. It looks like what happens when a Tholian ship and a Federation ship love each other very much. But in the book, they explain this ship is the reason why we don't see 3 nacelle ships. They explain that they decided to put in a 3rd nacelle because wouldn't that be great if we had 3 nacelles? We'd have a 3rd more power. We could do a 3rd more this, 3rd more that, et cetera, et cetera. Wouldn't that be great? And what they discovered is that 2 nacelles, you know, one can kind of balance out the other, et cetera. But if you've got, and it's okay that they're kind of out of sync, they kind of balance each other out. But you add a 3rd nacelle and you end up in some weird harmonics with one or the other, and it never reached its speed goals and was considered a total and complete failure. So they just got rid of it. And once again, those big things at the back, I think, are intended to be radiators, more exhausts and radiators more than they are like thrust bells on a rocket. But they give a very specific explanation associated with this as to why there are not 3 nacelle ships. That they tried it doesn't work. Okay, this is the Endurance, the man class, which I think also might have been an original idea that in the early days of Star Trek that they sort of played around with. you start seeing things like, okay, so, you'll notice that over time you start seeing clearly defined nacelles that are sort of away from the rest of the ship in some way, shape, or form. This is kind of an interesting thing. It's got this huge primary hull, and they talk about how this was one of the ships that was like the workhorse of the fleet for a long period of time. They never really talk about what those red barrels are at the end of the warp engines. And remember, this is back in the day. Well, Star Trek: The Motion Picture first sort of took the warp power plant out of the nacelles and moved it into the secondary hull. Up until that, the closest thing we had to anything canon was Franz Joseph. In the Franz Joseph design, all the antimatter stuff all happens inside the nacelles. You don't have any of that taking place inside the rest of the ship. And so if you go with sort of the modern sensibilities, you think that there's got to be some sort of warp assembly, power reactor assembly that's taking place inside the people tank. But I think at the time this book was made, it's not clear to me that that's what their intent was. If it is, boy, you got like people bunking next to the antimatter, and I wouldn't want to bunk next to the antimatter. So that's kind of a nifty design. So here we have the Moscow, which is listed as the first one with transporter and the last without dilithium. And now we're seeing something that you go, yeah, that looks like a Federation starship. That really looks like a Federation starship. So we're kind of getting there. So I kind of like that.
And they don't, in the Baton Rouge class, doesn't that make it into FASA?
It might. And I thought I had another slide, but it's telling me that I don't. But okay, so we're done. We're done with these. But that's really kind of a nifty design there. I like that.
By the way, this is a good time to take a little time out. To everyone who's watching right now, episode 4 of Axanar is headed your way. Most likely March, but we're in the red zone. We are within, there's a checklist of, I think, 5 things that have to happen, all of which are basically in process and being worked on, all of which will be delivered within the next 30 days. Then it goes for color correction, and we are off to the races. So we're real excited. So I want to let everyone know. At the final sound mix in LA 3 weeks ago, Jonathan Lane was there from Fan Film Factor, if you're familiar with his blog. And he just thought it was amazing, along with other people, that you guys don't know. You guys know. Jonathan can't shut up about how great it was, which makes me happy. And Jonathan's a good critic, of course. So we are. It's exceeding my expectations. In that it really is good. It really is good, and the sound mix is amazing. And I think when everyone sees it, and this is episode 4, episode 5 will come out this summer, but episode 4, everyone is just gaga over it, and I can't wait to show it to y'all, because you guys will just be really, really, really happy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Are you having an official premiere?
We have not worked out the details on that. Right now, we're working on a venue for a red carpet premiere at a convention, and an online event. We're going to be doing, but leading up to it, we're going to be doing a Axanar film festival, which will include all the 5 fan films done about Axanar, as well as episode 4, and culminating in episode. I'm sorry, including Prelude, and then culminating in episode 4. So, and we've got a lot of little things. I'm ramping up the video production, if you will, And we're going to be doing, when we come out with that episode, there's going to be a fundraiser attached to it for the documentary. So there's going to be a documentary about the kind of 16 years of from beginning to end, beginning to end. We got a professional documentarian who's already done great work and is excited about Axanar. And but just like Drexler came out and raised $200,000 for his documentary. We've got some really big plans around the documentary. So so anyway, things are going great. So very Wright says Axicon at the studio during the summer. It may be that Axicon, it'll depend when we release. I'm not making plans yet. But being that there are so many Axanar actors who are Atlanta based.
Yeah.
Obviously myself, Crystal's in it. Rob Pralgo, who plays April, Raj Kala, who plays Commodore Singh, Vince Canlis, who plays Tanaka, Halle Leary, who plays Wagner. Who else is local? I have to think about it. Our makeup artist is here now, who was on Face Off twice. So we have, I have to think about it, but we have at least 6 actors here that can all come and sign autographs. And, if we do it in conjunction with the convention, I want the convention to bring in JG, one or two others, so we can really have just a really spectacular event. So there you go.
That would be cool. Let me know if I can make it. I will.
I will let you know for sure, my friend.
So it's, yeah.
So are you going to do another episode about the other book? This one?
I wasn't going to do one about that because that one's not as heavy on starships.
Tech. Yeah, it's much more general.
But I am going to do one on I'm going to go through and do a bunch on the JBot stuff because he's got some fantastic deck plans, just fantastic designs. And I want to do one on the Orville.
Oh, okay.
And before you came in, I said I also want to do one on the Galactic Cruiser Leif Erikson.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Also designed by Matt Jeffries.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I had that model as a kid.
Yeah, I had the glow in the dark UFO version of it.
Yeah. And I bet somewhere around here I still have the shuttlecraft.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sure that some people hadn't yet figured out that I'm a geek. But anybody who was unclear about the concept, I used to carry that shuttlecraft around with me in my pocket, like every. Oh my
God.
I took it to school with me. I always had it with me because it was so cool.
It was cool. It was very cool. Yeah.
It was a nifty little design. And somebody's done like full, 3-dimensional or 3-view drawings of it.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm going to go over all that stuff when I do it and sort of the history of it and how that thing came about. It was originally a Matt Jeffries thing. And then at one point, Niven and Parnell needed a spacecraft for Mote and God's Eye. And so their original conceptualization was Jerry Parnell had that model. And they said, let's use this. And so the MacArthur from Mote and God's Eye, their original conceptualization was that.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. And so yeah, it was really pretty cool. And a bunch, I want to say, I think that Winchell Chung has a page on it, if I remember correctly. So I'll pull from Winch's page for this. And I also want to spend more time talking about Winch's stuff because Winch, the Atomic Rockets of the Space Patrol website, I will never run out of topics because if nothing else, I can just go to the atomic rockets of the Space Patrol site and pick a page at random and do a show on that. And on any given page, I could probably do 12 shows on it because there's that much stuff there. The writers of The Expanse, I can't remember what their actual names are, but they said they never could have written The Expanse if they didn't have the Atomic Rockets webpage. And
wow, that's interesting.
So Patrick Ross asks, any chance of a deep dive on the cruiser from Forbidden Planet? Yeah, possibly. So the C-57D there's some interesting questions about it, like how do you fit all that shit in there? And the answer appears to be that you don't. But like in all cases, when the inside appears to be bigger than the outside because it's a movie set, people adjust things, right? So the natural thing to do with the C-57D is to just sort of say, okay, maybe the external set we saw, like the size of the saucer, because you get an idea about how big that pedestal is when it lands and how big the pedestal is compared to the rest of the saucer. And then it turns out the saucer's too small. Well, you can always just sort of say, like, all right, we're going to hand wave, and the pedestal's actually, if you doubled everything, it all fits, right? If you just double the diameter of that saucer, it all fits quite nicely. But there's enough that you can sort of, some people have done some analysis of like what fits where and things like that. It's actually kind of nifty. I like it a lot. Bob points out it's kind of TARDIS-like in that regard. It really is kind of larger on the inside than the outside. But we run into this problem all the time. It's not the only, like, you cannot. One of the other things I want to do is Space 1999, because there's the role-playing game and there's the really nifty tech manual that came out, and there is no way to make the Eagles work. Absolutely no way to make the Eagles work. The inside is bigger than the outside. It just is. And it's even worse than that. It's inconsistent because you have people standing next to things, and so okay, all right, we measure everything, and you cannot come up with a consistent scale. You come up with something that goes anywhere from like 83 feet to like 110.
Yeah,
based on what you're looking at.
Yeah, so, and you're talking about 70s sci-fi, right? And they just didn't think that way. They didn't think that, okay, let's get the production designer to design the sets and the ships and blah blah blah. It's all gonna, they just weren't.
Nobody will care.
Yeah, it's just TV. It's just a sci-fi show.
And then you also have something that happened between season 2 and season 1 of Space 1999, where part of the Eagle disappeared from the interior set. So the module, right? You've got the removable module part where that had seats and stuff, and then you had the area where the landing legs are, and then you had the control cabin. The landing leg area disappeared from the interior set between seasons 1 and 2. And that's because they moved to another sound stage that was like 10 feet smaller. You know how this works.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was on your show that I told the story, but I'll tell the story since you're hitting on exactly this point. But when I got up to the Battlestar Galactica set in 2008, I was doing the auction for all the assets, and they just wrapped the series, and they were in production on the plan, the movie. Mm-hmm. And the first day I got my tour, and Rob, the construction coordinator, showed me, I guess it was 3 sound stages, I think, that they were on. And he showed me the hallway. And they said, okay, and we'll go next door and I'll show you the bridge, the CIC. Yeah. So he goes next door. And I go, wait a second, Rob, these don't connect. I said, that first shot in the miniseries, the very first shot, you see Adama walking all the way down the hallway, and it's one shot, without a cut, and he walks into the CIC. How the fuck did you do that? And he said, that's because the miniseries was shot in North Vancouver at a different soundstage. When the miniseries was over, they put all the sets in storage, and when they got the commitment for the series, they went to Vancouver studios. I was like, oh. Wow. And I'm like, so you rebuilt this all? I'm like, fudge.
You know what I really would love to have seen? The set for Firefly. Because that was one continuous set. I mean, you could do a shot where you walked from the cockpit all the way back to engineering, and so everything that was on one level was really one continuous set on one level. And the actors used to hang out on the set. Between, they would just, if they were just wait, they'd have meetings on, sitting around the table and stuff, and they just hung out on it because it was all functional in that regard. It was a space you could hang out. And so they really did hang out there, and they liked hanging out there and stuff. And that was just a fantastic set. Fantastic set. Well,
listen, I love all the Expanse sets. I think the Expanse did it really well.
I really don't like the idea of the pilot being up on this balcony.
That's interesting. Yes.
With a fatal drop if somebody missteps when they go up to talk to it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
But other than that, that's the only one I have a problem with. Other than that,
yeah, no, that is weird. I agree. So
and I don't understand. I don't see what it gets you. I mean, it just doesn't get you anything.
Yeah.
It makes it harder for somebody else to get to the controls in a situation where there's an emergency and somebody else needs to get to the controls. It means that if you're under thrust, it's difficult to get up there, just period, and potentially a fall hazard. There's always an issue with large open spaces on a ship that's going to be in zero gravity, because if you for some reason you find yourself floating in the middle, there's no handholds, and you will eventually, if you start throwing clothes off, right? You start taking your clothes off and throwing them, you will eventually impart enough equal and opposite reaction that you can get to a handhold. But if the space is sufficiently large enough, you may run out of clothes before you get to a handhold.
I tell you, one of the ships I really liked was the one, what was it called? So the one with Tim Robbins and Jerry O'Connell and about Mars.
One of the two Mars ones.
And it
was either Mission to Mars or
Mission to Mars. Yeah, I love that ship. Because that scene where there's a puncture in the ship is so brilliant. It's so fucking brilliant. That whole scene is great. I love that movie. I really do.
I like that movie too. I really like The Martian, but the ship has some issues.
I really love The Martian too. Yeah.
My couple of problems with the ship in The Martian. So the hab areas in the gravity wheel area are just way too big. There would be more stuff there, right? Because that's mass, size is mass, and you don't necessarily want to put water tanks and stuff down there because you don't want to be moving mass you don't have to move. But you wouldn't have them be that big, I don't think. And the other thing is, it always sort of bothered me that why was what's his name sleeping in an airlock as opposed to sleeping on the couch in the living room?
I don't know.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense. It's a great scene. I mean, I especially love the so where will I sleep? With Johansson.
Yeah, no, it's a really well done. They're both great movies. Both
Yeah.
great movies. I really like them. So, let's see what are the other.
I was recommended, that movie was recommended to me by the Central Intelligence Agency.
Really?
Well, by a guy who worked there, a friend of mine who worked there.
No.
Yeah, because the book was originally recommended to me by him because I was talking to him on one, texting him back and forth on one Sunday afternoon, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm reading The Martian. And I can't put it down." And I said, "The Martian, really?" Because I hadn't read it yet, and it's a Robinson Crusoe story, and as a general rule, I don't do Robinson Crusoe. Right? Robinson Crusoe is a guy from a high-tech society who got to go camping against his will. And I don't read science fiction to read about people camping, right? I don't read, maybe, but Amazon kept recommending it to me. And so my buddy tells me, yeah, it's really good. And I went, okay, I'm about done with my audio book, so I should finish that today. I'll start it tomorrow. So I started it so that was on Saturday. I started it Sunday morning. And by Sunday afternoon, it's like, oh my God, this is fantastic. This is utterly fantastic. And I the next day at work, I'm going cubicle to cubicle to proselytize The Martian to people. I worked with a bunch of engineers. And so, and it took hold on a couple of people. And like one guy in particular on Friday of that week, I said, Jeff, I almost didn't come in today. I almost took today off so that I could stay home and finish The Martian. and he just laughed and he said, I almost did that too.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, that's a fantastic
read. Yeah, last book that I read that I couldn't put down. It was yeah. And Andy, I got to meet Andy because he's an Axanar fan.
Oh,
yeah, and
good for him.
Yeah, I got to meet him. Diana and I met him in 2015, and absolute gentleman. And so so I'm looking forward to see. Although I haven't read it, I'm looking forward to seeing Operation Hail Mary. Hail Mary, is that what? Or,
yeah, and I read enough about it that I made my saving throw and not running out and grabbing the book. But there's that, and then there's Artemis. I haven't read Artemis either. I need to. And I absolutely love the story. He just started doing it on a blog, and some people said, I'd really like to read this on my Kindle. And he went, all right, let me see if I can figure out how to do this on a Kindle. And he discovered that he had to charge $1 for it, at least $1, because the Kindle wouldn't let him charge less than that, like 99 cents. So very apologetically, he said, I'm sorry, I got to charge you for it, and puts it up on Kindle and charges 99 cents. And almost immediately sold 10,000 copies. Wow. So, something like that. And all the publishers went, wait a minute, what? So the publishers came to him and said, how'd you like to publish this for real? So that I thought that was really funny. Let me go take a look at what we got here. I'm going to scroll back up to the beginning and see what we've got for comments.
Yeah, here's one. Dustin asked me if I've seen. Yes, I've seen the first 3 episodes of Academy. My opinion is it was the first 2. I saw the first 2. Excuse me, I haven't seen the third, so I'll go watch the third tonight. It was fine. It was fine. I think these days with Star Trek, anything Kurtzman Trek, anything live action, whether you like it or not, you just have to have you have to be flexible because there's always a lot of bullshit in it. And so I could go and tell you all the things I hate about those 2 episodes. I hate that wall of heroes. It's bullshit. Like Nog's a lieutenant, Sita Jaxa is there from the episode Lower Decks, from TNG, where she dies. That was a top secret mission. How does anyone know who the hell she is? And then there are all these. Why is Julian Bashir still? I think he's a lieutenant on that wall. And they got names that make no sense. Or people who are irrelevant, tiny little characters you see in one episode. Anyway, it's not made by serious Star Trek fans. It's made by casual Star Trek fans. So that pisses me off.
Well, and you just define Kurtzman.
Yeah, and also look, we know that there are no Sharon left, the half black, half white. We saw this we know he is in Section 31. Well, I'm sorry, you don't know your fucking Star Trek. That species was extinct, and the last two survivors were fighting each other across the universe. So you don't know your
I'm willing to I'm willing to believe that maybe somebody else made it off the planet, and the two guys who weren't on the planet at the time didn't know about it.
Didn't know. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
But if they got it right, it was by accident. It wasn't on purpose.
Yeah. Also, we're still wearing. What's the deal with the eyeglasses? What? Oh, are you allergic to Retinox 5 also?
Because eyeglasses are cool.
Yeah, but when David Cronenberg said that in Discovery, he's like, "Oh, I just like the way I look with them," or whatever he said. I was like, "Okay, fair enough."
So I had a friend.
It's not your vision; it's vanity. Okay, that's cool.
I had a friend. I am not kidding. This is exactly what she was going to do. She had just gotten new contacts, and she also got glasses, because this is back in the days when you couldn't wear contacts forever and ever and ever. And the company that she was getting her glasses from had a buy one get one free thing going on. And so what she did, not having another thing that she wanted to do, she decided she liked the way that she looked with glasses, and so did I. And so she got a set of glasses that just had plain glass in them, so that she could wear her glasses while she was wearing her contacts.
Yeah, fair enough.
This incidentally is the same woman that I went to see When Harry Met Sally with. And normally we would dissect movies after we saw them. We walked out of the movie, and the total conversation was, "I liked it. How about you?" "I liked it too." And we never mentioned it again.
Yeah, too many things you did. You have to start
way too close to her.
Getting back to the comment from before, though, I generally like Starfleet Academy.
Okay,
it's fine. I granted that it's Kurtzman Trek. Granted, it's set in a setting that I don't like. I will, once again, the uniforms look like shit. Fire whoever's doing the costume design. I got to be honest with you. I could be a better costume designer for Star Trek than the shit that they're putting out in that, whatever that era is. Mm-hmm. However, the people who are objecting to these, "Oh, it's bad Star Trek," it's not. It tells a good story. I'm not going to dissect why they separated the mother and the. It's a plot point. It's how they get the story going. I'm not going to go. It was fine. I really enjoyed both episodes. I hate the Romulan. I hate the half Jem'Hadar, half Klingon headmistress. I don't think that she's a particularly. I'm not engaged with her as an actress. I also think if you're a synthesis, let's assume the Jem'Hadar that far in the future have evolved. They're no longer an engineered species. There's male and female. Maybe that was the gift the founders gave them at the end of the war. I'll buy that. I'll accept that there's a Jem'Hadar that can reproduce. That's fine. Half Jem'Hadar, half Klingon. Great idea. The two fiercest warrior races in the galaxy. And that's what she looks like? I got news for you. The two fiercest warrior races in the galaxy are going to produce an offspring that looks like Gina Carano. Get her to play that role. Not, again, without being impolitic, not an overweight female actress who she doesn't scare anyone. She in the show she scares people by raising her voice, but she's not physically imposing. I have a problem with that. Again, I'm nitpicking. Did I enjoy the 2 episodes? Yeah. The Beta thing, trying to get them in, back in the Federation, good idea. Okay, I see a great solution in the end. I don't want to spoiler episode 2, but great solution. All right, I like it. And Oded Ferrer, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. The guy from The Mummy. I love him. I wanted to cast him in Axanar. So when he was in Discovery, I was all pissed off. I love him. He's just one of those. He's like, he's like Ferran Tahir. He's one of those, actors who's got so much fucking presence that I believe him as an admiral. I believe him as the head of Starfleet. Now, the guy who's the head of the Starfleet War College, I think, is a joke. I think that's just bad casting. I'm not particularly impressed with the casting director of these of this show, but then again, I like there's things I like. I'm kind of like the hologram. I think she's kind of funny. Kind of like the way they have her written as that kind of like too friendly type. It works. I get it. It works. I like the main characters. Holly Hunter. A lot of people are bitching about the way she sits in the captain chair. She's a hippie. We know she's a hippie. She's I guess she's the same species as Carol Kane's character from Strange New Worlds. Okay, great. I buy it. She's a hippie, so she's gonna be unconventional. Great, I buy it. So I don't mind the way she sits in the captain's chair. I can't stand the ship. I can't stand the fact that the ships don't look like the ships should, like we're used to, right?
Yeah.
They're just like so, let's get Picasso to design Starfleet, whatever. But again, I'm nitpicking. Did I enjoy the 2 episodes? Yes. Will I watch episode 3 and the rest of the season? Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like Strange New Worlds. I can't like everything in Strange New Worlds. There's a lot of stuff I don't like in Strange New Worlds. But you know what? I like the show. So I think that this whole idea that we have to be in love with every episode of Star Trek, that we have to love, Oh, by the way, the fact that they incorporated Prodigy into the timeline, I love it. I absolutely love that. The fact that they showed that creature that looks like the Thing, I loved it. I thought that was so cool. So listen, there's I am not I'm not a basher of all things Star Trek. I'm allowed my nitpicks. I'm allowed the things I don't like. Overall, is everyone, are these people doing an admirable? They're doing a satisfactory job. I give it a solid C.
Okay.
I'm not going to say it's worse than average. I'm going to say if you kept making Star Trek like that, okay. I'm not going to be gaga over it. I don't think you're going to bring in a new generation of Star Trek fans. And I think you got to monitor the amount of money you're spending on Star Trek. But my question for Skydance is that money well spent?
Well, remember, there was a time period where you really kind of had to give them a half season for free.
Yes.
Like the first ship, or in the case of TNG, like a season and a half. Because she died, because as Pat Doyle points out, the best episodes of Star Trek never happened.
Yeah, that's right. And here, again, this is my point. I'm okay with, agreed. A lot of genetic, fine. It's 1,500 years after TOS or whatever the hell it is. A lot of, they can do that at that point.
Yeah, especially
not a problem.
So I do want to toss something else up here.
Bob, I haven't decided how much I like Holly Hunter, but so far I don't dislike her. So
in general terms, I like Holly Hunter. So I want to throw one up here. So what he's referring to is those. And those monitor stands go with that monitor, and that monitor. So it's not that I like Dell monitor stands, it's that I like Dell monitors. Although one of those monitor stands is actually, I do have an extra Dell monitor stand. Before I realized that it wouldn't fit any of the Dells that I had, because it was a better monitor stand than the monitor that that monitor had come with. It was a monitor that was destroyed in a class on purpose. It was like a broken monitor, but they basically had somebody beat this monitor to death with a baseball bat. It was kind of entertaining as part of a class that I was taking professionally. And I said, "Can I take the monitor stand? Because I think I could use it." And then I discovered that it was like a 2-prong instead of a 3-prong or something like that. And it didn't fit my monitor.
Olive Drem. Yeah, I think the point here is that when Odo merged with the Great Link at the end of DS9, the founders fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
They had to fundamentally change because he was basically, at that point, he's basically Jesus Christ of the founders. He's basically bringing enlightenment to a race that was on the, and he literally singularly saved the entire race,
which is what you would expect from Father Mulcahy.
Yeah. So from Father Mulcahy, is that who
he played Father Mulcahy in the movie MASH.
Oh, did he? I did not know.
Alec, yes, you were, like, when he passed away, we were on the Axonar set, and this was mentioned multiple times, my dude.
Oh, I totally forgot that. Okay.
I watched the movie MASH again within the last decade, having not seen it for like 30 years. And it's like, oh my God, that's Odo. What the hell's he doing here?
So anyway, Odo would have instilled his ethics and code of conduct, and knowing Odo, he's not going to stand for the Jem'Hadar.
Yeah. He's got. You're seeing now there's an entire race that lusts after Cara Nerys.
Yeah, you're going to re-engineer this race to be a legitimate race of sentient, reproducing beings. That makes total sense with what Odo would have done, right? And the founders would have done it because the founders were, they were kind of lost at that point. They were beaten and lost, and he's their savior. So yeah, they're going to do that. So I don't have a problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't either. All right, I'm scrolling down here. There's a few questions about like why do specific ships in the chronology look the way they do? I ask Rick Sternbach. I don't know.
By the way, you should get Rick Sternbach on the show.
I should. I've been, it has occurred to me that I should reach out to him and see if he wants to do it. And he's got some interesting ideas. Like, when was that old? I'm trying to remember where I heard this. He might have told this to me directly, or it might be somewhere online. That old starships, when they decommission the starship, they will sometimes take the primary hull and turn them into space stations.
Oh.
And sort of like connect them to a core. So there was like this drawing, this illustration of a bunch of primary hulls that are sort of attached to something.
Yeah, okay, I could see that.
So it was kind of a.
As a matter of fact, let's see. I'm just looking if I have anything I can share with you guys. Any filmage that I can share with you guys. No. Okay. Let's see. Since 42 people. Good. That's good. Good.
Yeah,
that's a good audience. You guys deserve a little something.
Yeah, that's a pretty good audience.
Okay, here's one of Dana's latest comps.
Okay.
This is Corax, the intelligent officer.
Not the Primarch.
Not the Primarch. No, she. Yeah. So this is a still that he gave me off her comp. Dana created this whole Starbase set.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Let's see if there's any other good cool things here. Let's see.
Well, you're looking for something. I'm going to throw up the comment by Patrick Ross, remembering Rene Auberjonois, however you say his name, from Benson.
Auberjonois.
So also on Benson was, what's his name, who played Neelix?
Ethan Phillips.
Ethan Phillips. He was also on Benson. And when he got cast in Voyager, apparently Renee called him up and said, "You have absolutely no idea how your life is going to change."
Oh, that's funny. Here's Dana working on the shot, basically the shot that I just showed you. And if you can see you see the shot, up here,
mm-hmm.
and down here, this matrix is all the different variables that he has to put together of lighting and comping and everything. Dana's a freaking miracle. He is our miracle worker.
Yeah. How much of this stuff did he know before you started this project?
Oh, all the comping stuff, nothing, none of it. He learned it. He was so frustrated with the guys we were getting. He was so
He
that he said,
just decided to learn it himself.
It can't be that difficult. I'll learn it myself.
Wow.
And it's crazy. I think.
What's he going to do when you finish?
He's retired, and he has not enjoyed his retirement because we're busting his ass. So here's some. Here's some. Let's see what else we'll do. Give you a couple sneak peeks here. Some of these I may have shared on. Okay. Our dearly departed friend. So there you go. There is a Gary, and then let's show you something. So the Vulcan stuff, the comping is really good. Dana did some amazing. It's just, and it's so funny, the Klingon stuff he did, which I mostly can't share with you. Here's another. This is our new Vulcan, Captain Arev.
Yeah, because you still haven't let out the full cast list, have you?
We have not. No, we will not until the episode hits. Hopefully we'll have spoken to Skydance by then and prepared them for what they're going to see. And then.
Well, I've always said I never thought I'd hear "I'll be back" in a Star Trek show.
And I guess this is. I'll show you this.
One for solid matter, torpedoes, micrometeors, one for high EM weaponry, phasers, and one for low EM. Now,
so that's a scene explaining the Klingon shields.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know what else do we have. I'm just looking at my folder to see what else. Oh, and here's, listen, I've shared this shot before, but it's one of my favorites. Because I directed it. Oops. And this is a scene you'll see at the end of episode 5. But we were going for the different shots of the different captains, and anyway, so I think that's about all I got at this point. Okay,
Cool.
This is not this shot. This will allow us to have a different conversation. This shot was shared with me by our AI artist, who's doing the one shot that we need. But this is not it. This is just something random he did. That's all AI.
Wow. Yeah,
that's pretty impressive if you ask me.
Yeah.
Well, it actually, if you look on I actually have one with scrambled eggs back there on my shelf. So, yes, indeed. I also saw a great animated, it wasn't AI, but animated video. World of Warships put it out about how the Graf Spee got sunk, which it didn't get sunk, it got scuttled. But the Battle of the River Platte.
Yeah.
It was really good. Because like we've talked about, I watch everything on YouTube, so this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's amazing how much YouTube stuff I watch. I watch a lot of Perun in particular, because Perun does defense economics, which is, it's not quite what my day job has been, but it's like the thing right next to my day job. Like one of my day job at DIA, I was part of the acquisition process. And so I wasn't the economics portion of the acquisition process. I was the requirements portion. And he's a requirements guy, because he made the comment that at one point something about his day job is about defense requirements. And so he just does a fantastic job. So I love it when he talks about incinerating large amounts of cash.
Well, here's another one. I can show you guys this one. That's Rob Hayes, who plays DeVille.
Okay.
I'm in a different folder now, so let me see if I have anything. Oh, no, that's not it. I showed you that. And I think that's... Oh, here, I'll show... Although this isn't from the film, it's worth seeing anyway. So there you go. There's the bridge.
I was really surprised when you told me that bridge is the exact same size as the original series bridge.
Yes, it is.
Because it felt very small and claustrophobic while on it. And the fact that you actually bolt the chairs to the floor doesn't make that any better when you're walking around. It makes it feel very cluttered. That is not me saying don't bolt the chairs to the ground. Bolt the damn chairs to the ground. But it was really pretty cool getting to watch the rough cut while sitting in the captain's chair.
Oh yeah, it's
on the main viewer. That was just fantastic.
yeah.
So, but it was that was cool. That was cool. Maybe I'll get a chance to come down again.
You better.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get, first part of the year is going to be busy. Like I'm running a conference in April, and then I'm game director for a couple of events in May, and then report writing in June. So I'm going to be, I think, kind of heads down starting sometime in late February, early March, while we get all that stuff together.
Well,
So
hopefully
we did not put seatbelts on the chairs, but the chairs are all bolted to the ground.
not actually, but they look like they're bolted to the ground.
Oh, they're not they're movable?
No, yeah, all our chairs are movable. They just have to have bolts on the base.
And they're heavy.
Yeah, they're heavy. They're heavy too. Yeah, but remember, if you had been on the original Star Trek TOS set, it was only although it was built in the round, 99% of the time they shot it with basically a third of it flown out.
Yeah. They always did it basically directly across from the turbo lift.
Yeah. So when you walk on our bridge, which we could fly a section out, but we don't. So yeah, it really. But also that's kind of what we wanted, right? What we wanted was to be that way for it to be. Let me just.
Your cameras are small.
Yeah, our cameras are definitely smaller than what they were using on Star.
Which reminds me of that one scene. Remember the scene? I don't even remember the episode, but Kirk walks all the way around the bridge.
Doomsday Machine. That's the opening shot post credits of the Doomsday Machine. And it's a great fucking shot.
It is. And I'm sure it's one of those shots that the more that you know about how that show was made, the more impressive that shot becomes.
Yeah.
Because just being able to do that was one of the reasons why they set up the Firefly set the way it was, is so that they could do long continuous shots they could basically shoot from any angle.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the beginning anyway.
Yeah. And that's, what Mark tried to do with Icarus maneuver. And, our goal also is to do additional shoots for episode 5. We actually wanted, Jeff, my DP, and I have talked about, we're going to do actual bridge blowing up shit type shots, without the requisite styrofoam rocks flying all out of the ceiling. But I think there's an opportunity to add some practical shots that'll work well, I think, because we had 3 practical shots in Prelude. You had Tony Todd giving the speech. You had Richard Hatch's Karn walking through that hallway with all those flags. And then you had Kate Vernon walking through the ship that's, the damaged ship. And they all add a certain amount of weight to the episode. While we don't have that per se in episode 4, I think we need it in episode 5. And so, there's a scene where JG, Travis says, "Oh, the D7s were ripping us up." Well, I want to go from him saying that. So you're on track. He says that you cut to a D7 firing its photon torpedoes or its phasers, and then you cut to a bridge ship blowing up in a bridge.
Yeah.
Crew going flying around, shit like that. Right? I think that'd be cool. So yeah. So there you go. So we'll see. We'll see how things work. But all right, well, I need to get going because it's 10:40.
It is that time. It is that time. We did a I guess a normal length show. Our 1 hour show went 100 minutes as always. And we managed to get out.
At this point, I just carve out 2 hours, and I'm like, well, we'll get there eventually.
You just carve out 2 hours, and we always finish early. So we managed to get through with only one reference to 40K.
Yeah, exactly. And that wasn't my fault.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was totally my fault. So, but as always, thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for making the show possible. I have told people the story about how the show started. In fact, I think I told that last week because we were cross-listed with the Armchair Dragoons Digital Convention. So we did it to both networks, and maybe that's why we got 43 people. Maybe some people came over from that. So I don't know what the next topic's going to be, but there's the long list of topics. The JBot stuff is definitely a possibility. I may do a deep dive on the patent. It seems to me that it would build off well. So I think I'm going to default. I wrote it down on a piece of paper, JBot patent. I think I'm probably going to default to doing a deep dive on the patent, if nothing else. And so that's the plan for next week or the next show. It'll probably, if the weather is good, it will not be next week. If the weather is bad, it will be next week. So, but as always, I am amazed and delighted that so many people are willing to spend their Saturday night listening to me talk about Star Trek and spaceships and stuff like that. And we got plenty of stuff continuing to roll down through the new year. At some point, I'm going to do some stuff on modular starship construction again, because I discovered a new set of modular ship technologies that I didn't know existed. And so we'll revisit that. There's always stuff going on with modern ship design. I'm still working my way through the battle cruiser thing, and so I'm sure we'll talk about battle cruisers at some point. Lots of stuff to talk about. But in the meantime, thank you very much, everybody, and have a good weekend.
Live long and prosper, my friends.